Dr. Colin Mendelsohn is chair of the Australian Tobacco Harm Reduction Association. Colin, good morning.
Good morning, Matthew.
You'd welcome these changes, I'm sure.
Look, Matthew, I support a different form of regulation, the type of regulation which is being used in all other Western countries, which is working. And that means making nicotine vaping products available from licensed retail outlets to adult smokers without a prescription and limiting access to young people. That's working very well in other countries.
All right.
These strict policies we've got in Australia just hasn't worked. We've got this thriving black market, and these products aren't being marketed to kids. They're being sold to kids by illegal operators, and that's because it's so hard for adults to get the products. The black market has just stepped in and sells them to anyone.
So how do we crack down on the black market? That's what needs to happen, obviously, then.
Exactly. Well, the problem is we've created the black market. It's not going to go away. And the only way to eliminate the black market is to replace it with a legal, regulated market. I mean, we've learned that repeatedly over the years. And, we know prohibition doesn't work. But if you legalise a product, regulate it, the black market will gradually be replaced by that.
Is there a black market for tobacco?
Absolutely. At least 20% of tobacco is sold on the black market, and it means no taxes. They're much cheaper products, so there's less incentive to quit smoking. And that's because we have such high prices in Australia. I mean, there's a huge profit margin, as there is for vaping products. So the black market is making a fortune from these products. So
you don't think that vapes are dangerous?
Vapes are not dangerous, but vapes are a quitting aid for adult smokers, and the risk from vaping is very small compared to smoking.
But if they're a quitting aid, why do people put things in them to make them fruit-flavoured and tasty and, fun?
Well, flavours are a very important part of vaping. The research shows that vaping flavours make smokers more likely to switch. They increase the quit rates because they're enjoyable, and they reduce relapse to smoking. So they're an integral part of vaping. Adults like flavours, and so the kids. But if you take out the flavours, you reduce the appeal of what's the most effective quitting aid that we have.
Well, people shouldn't be switching from tobacco to vapes because they're flavoured, though. They should be switching because arguably, and your argument would be, vaping is better for you than tobacco is, regardless of what it tastes like.
I don't care why they switch. I just want them to stop smoking. And if the only way they can quit smoking is to switch to a flavoured vaping product, I think that's to everyone's benefit. Why shouldn't they be able to enjoy it? And if they do enjoy it, they're much more likely to do it. They're much more likely to not relapse to smoking. And that's our main goal.
The Cancer Council talks of all the different chemicals that are just as much in vapes as they are in tobacco. Maybe less of them, but still chemicals, nevertheless. Putting anything into your lungs, whether it's tobacco smoke or steam, vaping, it's not good for your lungs, is it? You'd have to agree with that.
Of course. No, look, the only thing that should go in lungs is fresh air.
Yeah.
We all agree on that. But these are products for people who would otherwise be inhaling in tobacco smoke over 7,000 chemicals in very large doses. Now, from FIVEaa, which is a substitute for smoking, typically you get about 100 chemicals in vapor, and they're mostly less than 1% of what they are in smoke. So, yes, of course there's chemicals, but there's chemicals everywhere. But the benefit of switching to a much lower level of chemicals is obviously huge. The long-term benefits to smokers who switch are substantial.
Vaping's just a cop-out, though, isn't it, really? I mean, if somebody wants to give up smoking, there's nicotine patches, there's 100 different things they could do. Why vaping?
Well, the reality is that a large percentage of smokers are just not able to quit. Unfortunately, the treatments we have are not very effective. Less than 10% of smokers will have quit after 12 months with the current treatments we've got. And many smokers are just not able to quit. They try and fail repeatedly. Vaping is just another option for people who can't quit with other methods. And the alternative for them is to keep smoking and die prematurely.
Or they can vape and potentially die prematurely because, it's going to take 40, 60, 80 years to determine the effects of vaping, just as it did with cigarettes.
Well, I don't agree with that. You know, if you look at the basic science, it's pretty obvious that if you're inhaling high doses of 7,000 chemicals, you have a much higher risk of health and death from that compared to 100 chemicals in doses less than 1% of what they are in smoke. So, look, no one has ever died so far from vaping after 20 years, from vaping nicotine. And the evidence indicates that the long-term risk from vaping is likely to be far less than from smoking. The Royal College of Physicians says no more than 5% of the risk. So, of course, it's not risk-free, and it's better not to smoke. And we tell vapers to stop if they can, but if they can't stop vaping because they need that nicotine, then they shouldn't stop, because if there's a risk of going back to smoking, that needs to be avoided.
All right. So teenagers, adolescents who take up vaping, they probably aren't smokers. They're not taking up vaping to quit smoking. They're taking up vaping because it's cool and it's fun and it tastes like fruit or whatever the case may be, to fit in with the gang. That ain't a good result for vaping ultimately, is it?
No, look, kids definitely shouldn't vape, and these products aren't for kids. But what's important is, yes, look, Cancer Council will say, oh, yes, 25% of kids vape. Most use by young people who have never smoked is experimental and short-term. Very little regular vaping occurs in young people who have never smoked. The regular vaping is by kids who have switched from smoking. And that's a good thing. And we're seeing, as vaping rates go up in other countries in kids, smoking rates fall faster than ever. So it's diverting kids from smoking, and that's a good thing.
All right. Colin, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Michael.